Hey guys, it's Arabelle here, and I want to thank you all for tuning into this video and allowing me to share how network marketing, a non-traditional business, has allowed me to create a passive residual income, have time freedom, have the option of walking away from my full-time job, and then eventually designing the life that I had always dreamed for myself. So a little bit about me 5 years prior to today. I was working full-time and long hours at corporate places. And even though I was a good worker, I would get promotion after promotion, earned a little bit more money than the year prior. I noticed that my lifestyle wasn't changing. And I thought to myself, I must be doing something that needs to be changed or tweaked. And I had learned through personal development that in order for me to be wealthy, I need to study wealth. That only made sense to me. So that's when I picked up this book by Robert Kiyosaki called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this book is the #1 personal finance book of all time. It is a bestseller. And it's the tale of his two dads. His poor dad was his biological father that was a very educated man, actually the head of education for the state of Hawaii, that gave him the advice of go to school, get good grades, find a safe and secure job, save up, and then retire. And then his rich dad was his best friend's father, who told him that it doesn't only need to be done through school. In order to create wealth, you need to become an entrepreneur and learn how to make money work for you. And so Robert was at a crossroads, and he decided to take the advice of his rich dad. And his rich dad told him that poor people ask this question, and they ask, how can I make more money? And that triggered me because I would always think to myself, how can I make more money? Maybe get another job, go for a position that paid more, right? It's a question that had always crossed me. And he also said that rich people ask this question. And the question is, how can I make money work for me? And so he decided from that point to take the advice of his rich dad. And this showed him how to work and look at the 4-income quadrant. So this is the 4-income quadrant. It's kind of a tongue twister, but... And according to the book, most people earn their income or create their wealth in any of these corners here. And E stands for employee, S for small business or self-employed, B for big business, and I for investor. And over here, Robert says that there are many hardworking people here as employees, which is true. But unfortunately, it's the most inefficient way to create wealth. And why is that? Well, he says that here, you trade time for money, right? You clock in and you clock out. And even though many of us would love to work more hours or maybe even 24 hours a day, we can't do that. Our bosses won't let us, and it's illegal. So here you're capped at this, right? So what a lot of people do is they move from employee to self-employed. So here maybe we can consider or think of photographers or like personal trainers, right? And they go from having a boss to being the boss here. But still in this area, they're the face of the business. Because what happens when the photographer stops taking pictures? Or what if the personal trainer stops seeing clients? Maybe even gets sick and cannot physically be able to go back to their business. So here they're still the face of it, and they have to report to their work to be there and earn a living. So here they trade more time for more money. So it's often mentioned to be they go from having a job to buying a job. So let's move on to this side of the quadrant here, which is investor. And over here, money equals more money. And investors are like people who flip houses, invest in precious metals or stocks. And although you can win big in this area, it's not always guaranteed you're going to win. You can always lose big. So a scenario that often happens is people here who are employees save up for a very long time, let's say $150,000 for the 20 years that they've worked so far, right? And they think to themselves, how can I make this grow? And how can I invest it into something? And if they invested into something and they win, that's awesome. They've doubled it or tripled their investment. But what if they lose? So that whole $150,000 or whatever amount it is that they saved over time is now at zero. And that is extremely detrimental to your lifestyle, or maybe the people who you're supporting, even for just yourself. So what Robert suggests, according to the book, is that in order to create wealth, you need to move from this side of the quadrant to this side of the quadrant. And then B again stands for big business. Now I'm going to cover the 3 types of businesses that Robert mentions. And the first one is a franchise. And a franchise we all can think of as like a McDonald's or a Subway, businesses like that, where the good thing is the manual has already been written and you're buying in to a proven system. Right? So here you also have to pay for schooling on how to run the franchise, because obviously if you have McDonald's, how to flip the burgers, how to hire a staff and things like that. The next kind of business is a traditional business, right? A traditional where you're creating everything from the ground up, where you have to find a location. So you've got brick and mortar, legal documentation, hire a staff, and things like that. And both of these types of businesses usually needs a lot of money to start up, right? And a lot of these businesses start, but they also fail within a certain amount of time. They're not like you don't get a return of your investment or a profit right away. So here, the risk is really high, right? Not to mention all the blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into your traditional business. So, like myself, I didn't have a lot of money in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do all these, but I know I have the desire to create wealth for myself. And Robert mentions the third type of business, which is the non-traditional. And the non-traditional business has a couple highlighting points to it that I want to share with you guys. And the first is that it's inexpensive. It does not involve an investment of hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can do it and work it from home. You can do it part-time, which is awesome. You don't have to quit what you're currently doing, or don't have to stop school to do it. You can create leverage, which eventually creates time freedom, and then also build an asset to create a residual income. So before moving on with this, again, earlier I told you guys that I had already made a decision that I do want to create wealth so that I can design the life that I want. And I understood that I had to move from this side of the quadrant to this side of the quadrant. And looking at this, I didn't have the capital to do this. So that's why I decided to go with the non-traditional system. So I'm going to move you over here to this side of the quadrant again before I continue there. We're over here, we are usually in the 40-40 plan. And what is that? You work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life to eventually retire at age 65, or I think now the age is actually 72 to retire. So people are retiring at a later age. And I take a look at the majority of people who do retire. They're not fully retiring. They're semi-retiring. So they walk away from their full-time job, or they retire from it, but they take on a part-time job so that they can supplement their retirement income. So to me, it didn't really appeal to me that I would work 40 hours a week for 40 years of my life to not be able to completely support the lifestyle or even have a better lifestyle after I retired. I didn't want to retire broke. And I didn't want to be a burden to my family that I was leaving behind. I wanted to be able to take care of them when I leave or when I exit this earth. So on this side, I want to make a comparison from the 40-40 plan. And according to Robert Kiyosaki, a way to create wealth here in a reasonable time frame is 2 to 5 years. So the plan here is a 2 to 5 year plan. And I'm going to explain this a little bit further. And I've been doing my non-traditional business or working it for the last 4 years. I'm starting my 4th year now. And so I want to share with you my experience with this on the last 3 years. So my partner and I, in year 1, worked our businesses part-time, 10 to 15 hours a week. And we earned $15,000. And we kept our full-time jobs because we knew that wasn't going to just cut our lives, right? So anything we earned from our jobs full-time plus this was just a bonus. So now let me take you into year 2. Where here we did the same thing. We worked part-time, 10 to 15 hours a week, kept our full-time jobs, and we earned $32,000. Now let's go to year 3. Here, we did the same thing. We worked part-time, 10 to 15 hours a week, and we earned $65,000. And we walked away from our full-time jobs. So what I would like to observe here is that you can see just in the last 3 years, we had the blessing of having to double our income every single year without increasing the amount of time we worked, because we were able to create leverage and have residual income. So if we continue with the path that we're on, which is the part that's exciting, is year 4, if we do everything the same, we should be right on track and on schedule to hitting 6 figures or more. And so this is the part that was exciting to me. Now I'd like to explain how this looks like on a graph, the 40-40 plan versus the non-traditional 2 to 5 year plan. And on this side over here, if we drew a graph that looked like this, where it's time down here and money on this side, we're at our jobs, right? And we do a good job, we might get a raise, right? So our income increases a little bit, and then through time a little bit more, through time a little bit more, so on and so forth. On this side, on the 2 to 5 year plan with the non-traditional network marketing plan, let's draw the same graph. Time, money. Not gonna lie, the first year or 2 is all learning. So you might be working a lot, but still be down here. Your first 2 to 3 years. But if you stick with it and you eventually create leverage and residual income, it becomes exponential. So you guys can see how on this side, it's a linear income. On this side, it's exponential growth because you're able to create a leveraged business and build an asset to create residual income for yourselves. Now, after explaining the 4 income quadrant concept by Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad to you, my call to action from here, or my wish for you, is to simply think, where are you in your life? Take a look at the 2 plans, the 40-40 plan versus the 2 to 5 year plan, and decide and think to yourself, which one do I want to be on, right? And if you're taking a closer look at non-traditional business to create and build wealth for yourself, just to summarize it, it's inexpensive. You can do it from home. You can work it part-time. You don't have to quit your current job or stop going to school. Because some people actually love what they do, right? then you can create leverage and then build an asset to residual income. Now, I understand we all have different goals in life, right? My first two goals were, when I built this, was to walk away from my full-time job and then buy my first dream car. My next couple of goals is to get our dream home and then eventually open a kitchen where I'm teaching communities and families to grow their own food and then cook with it. And I know that's not everyone else's dreams, but think, what's this gonna mean for you? And I'll share with you guys that the company that I decided to partner up with to create my 21st century wealth is a company called USANA Health Sciences.